By the end of today's episode, you'll know all about how to deal with not having friends and family members who support you in your acting journey. Welcome to the Actor's Career Compass, where we help aspiring screen actors find high-quality auditions, sign with great agents, and book major roles in legit productions. I'm your host, Martin Benson, and today we'll be talking about situations that can be hard to manage, namely when the closest people to you think that you should just get a real job. I'm going to share some general advice, along with a story about my own journey to hopefully help you. This is a reading of an article that I wrote a few years ago on this topic. Ready to dive in? So, I spoke with some actors who have unsupportive family and friends, and the stories they told me were, honestly, I don't even know what to say. Literally, some people got kicked out of their homes. They had zero financial support, zero emotional support. It's truly mind-boggling how someone can love watching films and seeing shows, but when their own daughter or friend or nephew wants to become an actor, all that love for the theater just goes right down the drain and they say to get a real job. Well, I was super fortunate to have parents who did support me. Even if my dream of starting a business failed, they would have continued to support me. But at the time, being a young, pride-filled 20-something meant I didn't want to take any money from my parents, even though they were going to support me. So instead, I hustled like crazy. The first 2 years of trying to build my business were extremely tough. My goal was to get my website, cityheadshots.com, on the first page of Google for the keyword Headshots NYC. But how could I, some random kid in New York in college, get my website to show up on the first page of Google in one of the most competitive markets in the world? Well, at least that's what everyone kept saying to me. It was a pipe dream, they'd say. You should look for a stable job. But I ignored them. I did my homework. I read everything I could, and I spent the limited money that I had buying books to educate myself. I literally spent a year and a half writing content, getting backlinks, and reading every book there is on search engine optimization. And that included a 700-page monster book called The Dummy's Guide to SEO and Online Marketing. And I didn't just read, I actually applied what I learned and I took action. And finally, after working at it almost every single day, my website showed up on the first page of Google. Sometimes I want to look back at all those people, all my friends who doubted me and say, I told you so. But you know what's even more rewarding than saying it? Is to know that I don't need to. And I want the same for you. So here is a strategy that I recommend trying, and it'll hopefully help you work through this or at least get along with these people, because you don't want to just alienate people and be like, oh, well, I'm never talking to you again and just leave, right? You want to try to get people on board because having that support is important. So here is a simple process that you can try. It's not going to work with everyone, but it can help. Number one is understand the other person's perspective. Do not fight or argue with them. The best way to convince someone of an important point is to first empathize and genuinely try to see their perspective on it. Ask them questions and find out why they don't want you pursuing acting. Give them time to explain. Do not argue against them. Once they've argued all of their points and you've got a deep understanding of their perspective, ask them if they have any idea of how you might be able to pursue acting in a less risky way. Tell them how much you love it and see what thoughts they're willing to share on a way that you could still attempt it. By giving them the floor to present solutions, you're getting them on board with the idea that it might actually be okay for you to do it. Now you've suddenly moved them all the way from the opposite end of the spectrum where they don't want you to do it at all, way closer to your side. Maybe on some middle ground where they're starting to think of a way that you could do it. This is huge, and it means that it's going to be easier to potentially convince them to come to your side. Now that they're somewhat open to the idea of maybe you do try to pursue acting, ask them if it's okay for you to tell them a few things that you've been thinking of on how you might be able to make it work. Because you've been so open to listening to them, they're probably going to be okay with listening to you. At that point, you want to explain to them how you plan to support yourself while pursuing acting, and tell them that you're educating yourself on the most straightforward way to grow a successful acting career. Tell them that you intend to get an agent and join SAG-AFTRA, where day rates can be thousands of dollars per day, even for small speaking roles. Explain to them that while the statistics of acting seem grim with so many people never getting ahead, the reality is that it's because so many people just do random things. They're not strategic, and they only try to get into acting to become famous quickly, which never really works out. You're doing this, on the other hand, because you love it and you don't want to live an unfulfilling life. To you, you are fulfilled when you act. Now, step 6 is that chances are mentioning the word fulfilling is going to hit home for them. And rather than just using data and statistics, which you are, they're going to also start to understand why it's important to you emotionally. And connecting with people on an emotional level can oftentimes be more effective than simply using data and statistics. Now, of course, this method is not guaranteed, but chances are you'll soften most people with it, at least enough to the point that they'll let you try acting and they will start to somewhat support you. Now, if it's your parent that you're trying to convince, obviously you have to pretty much do what they say if you're going to be able to keep living with them and not get kicked out. But if it's a friend or someone who doesn't have control of your life, if they still don't understand or argue against it or completely against the idea of you doing this, then just tell them that you really do appreciate their concern, but you still plan to try it out. And you will be very realistic about it. This should be enough to get them to say okay, so that you don't end the conversation and the relationship on a sour note. You want to stay friends with these people because they are going to be there to support you when times get tough. Remember, not everyone needs to support you though, okay? So if you do lose some support from people, you can find friends who love acting and do support you 100%. You can make new friends when you join this industry. But I still don't want you to alienate everyone you care about just because you may feel a bit lonely. I believe that you should aim to become an actor and not give up just because someone who cared about you was very much against it. If you know that deep down, acting is what you need to do, the fact is you've only got one life to live. I want to make sure that you make it a life that's yours. If acting is what you love to do, I want you to be able to look back 2 or 3 years from now and just like I was, be able to say, I told you so to all those doubters. But more than that, I want you to feel what it's like to not even have to say it. I did not go back and say, I told you so, but I knew that I didn't have to. There's no substitute for the confidence that you'll gain once your training, your hard work, and your unwavering belief in yourself finally do start to pay off. The only one who knows what's right and can keep going after it is you. Years from now, when you're on your deathbed, do you want to look at your life and wonder what could have been? Or do you want to look back and say, I chose to do what I believed in, and because of that, I lived my fullest and most honest life? Well, thanks for listening. Now, if you are a kid listening to this and you want to dive deeper on how to get started as an actor, I highly recommend checking out my podcast called For Kids, Here's How to Get Started in Acting for Film and Television. And that is episode number 27. You're going to learn a lot and have a much better understanding of the steps that you need to take to get your acting career going as a child. Again, episode number 27. And this is more than just kids, teenagers as well, obviously. So it's called For Kids, How to Get Started Acting in Film and Auditioning on the Actor's Career Compass. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.